Who will be the next Magic Online champion? Watch on May 13th through 15th as players including Sam Black, Mike Sigrist, and Jerry Thompson compete for the title. Watch live video coverage on twitch.tv/magic.
Hello everybody and welcome to round 2 of the Community Super League. This is Gabby Sparts with the professor who is currently sleeping. Professor!
What? I wasn't sleeping during that match. Who says I was? That is a fraudulent, that is fraudulence. Boy, so what are we about to see here, Marshall?
We have moved on from that match after your savage beating a second ago. I think
I
if we
won.
learned something...
I didn't get beaten. I won.
I know, it was a savage beating.
Oh,
I
yes,
think if we learned
indeed.
something, it's that you like a lot of value.
I hope that's what you learned, and not anything else other than that. I do like a lot of value, and I do know what the cards in my sideboard that go into my main deck are. I simply was testing all of you to see if you knew what I should be putting in by making incorrect choices. It's a little thing we call teaching. So I intentionally made bad choices to see who would catch me, and if you caught me making the bad choice, then congratulations, you get 5 points. And that's why it was there. You don't really think I would make bad choices on purpose.
So you were making sure that people weren't asleep, but you were asleep as we came into this match, so...
I was not sleeping, and there's no video proof of that whatsoever to be uploaded to the Magic YouTube channel tomorrow.
That was good. That was good beats, Professor. How did you feel about your match in general?
I felt that Bant is a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot more aggro than everybody told me it was, because I like aggro decks,
Sure.
and they told me that the Bant deck was not straight out aggro, but I proved them wrong. Straight out aggro, just swing it in, turn the card sideways.
No fear, just jam tireless trackers.
Yeah,
When did you figure out how to deal with this?
Yeah, and he could not, and therefore I won.
I like it. I went with an aggro deck for this week as well. I don't know that my fate will be quite as good because I have streamed with this deck quite a bit and I have gotten languished more times than I can possibly explain. It has not been pretty. In
But
any
at least
event,
you have experience. At least you have experience with that.
we'll see. We'll see if how many points we give out to people during my match. That will be
Right.
the true test. So for round 2, we have the fellas over at Loading Ready Run, and they are playing Red-White Eldrazi Goggles this match. Versus Magic the Amateuring, Maria and Megan. They're Black-Green Aristocrats, and we all were a little jealous that the Maria and Megan got the Black-Green Aristocrats deck. It's a very, very cool deck.
They snapped that one up right away. They were first pick in the draft, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First pick. They went for the Aristocrats.
Yeah. I think almost anybody might have first picked that deck, but it's a very good one. So it'll be an interesting match. Is there anyone that you're favoring here, Professor?
I am torn because these are all individuals that I admire greatly. Of course, Loading Ready Run are personal heroes of mine, and Maria and Megan, they're adjuncts at the community college. We get to broadcast the video version of their podcast. So I am simply going to root for a good game where we see kind of stupid questions so that the other person can explain the correct answers. I've decided for tonight I'll take on the role of the asking stupid questions like, what does that card do? Or what do you think the play is here, Gabby? And then, now I of course know the answer. I want to be really clear, I know the answer, but I'm asking the question purposefully so as to enable you to teach the chat about this wonderful complex game. So
right.
I call dibs on asking the silly questions.
And so it will be. I like it. I can dig it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yes.
It's gonna be good. Yeah, this is one of those matches too where like if you like both of the players and you're not even sure which
I know the answer, but I'm asking the question purposefully so as to enable you to teach the chat about this wonderful complex game. So
right.
I call dibs on asking the silly questions.
And so it will be. I like it. I can dig it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yes.
It's gonna be good. Yeah, this is one of those matches too where like if you like both of the players and you're not even sure which deck is favored or anything like that, you can just root for a good game and you'll be happy with whoever wins. So that is a nice thing about having a lot of like good friends and good players playing each other, because no matter what, it's going to be a fun game, hopefully a good outcome too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that Loading Ready Run and Magic the Amateuring are both very famous for some of their comedic drafts that they've done in the past, and both are comedy troupes. So we'll see, not having them on mic, if any of that comedy translates to the cards, or if they're just going to go pure value down, best optimal plays, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. So the matchup between Red White Eldrazi Goggles, and that's an interesting deck in general. This is definitely like probably the weirdest deck to come out of this top 8, and Black Green Aristocrats. I'm not even sure who it favors. It might be 50-50. It really kind of depends, I think, on who comes out of the gates faster. I think you just need Black Green Aristocrats to come out of the gates pretty fast.
Now, why do you say that this is such an interesting matchup? What are some of the interesting cards that we're about to encounter here?
I think the reason it's interesting is because it's, you know, the Eldrazi Goggles deck can do things like power up really fast things like Follow the Titans and copy it and just like burn out everything that they're doing, right? But if you have something like the Black Green Aristocrats player, here we have the deck, so let's take a look. So for Loading Ready Run, here's the Red White Eldrazi Goggles list, and this is kind of like a value deck in some ways. You're trying to get to things like Eldrazi Displacer is good at interacting with pretty much a lot of your creatures. Thought Not Seer interacts very well with it too. And then you have things like Follow the Titans and Pyromancer's Goggles, and if you're able to surge it out for relatively cheap and then you get to play Follow the Titans and copy it, you know, that's a really easy way to basically wipe out the entire Aristocrats board.
Absolutely.
And you have cheap interaction, right? You have Fiery Impulse, you have Fiery Temper, Lightning Axe. You have a lot of ways to kind of like mess with what they're doing at the beginning of the game. And so those are good for slowing down that deck. You know, if you kind of like ping it before they develop a board or they assemble a combo of Nantuko Husk and a lot of the other value creatures, then you're in pretty good shape, and you have, you know, Planeswalkers that help in the late game. And on the other hand, we can bring up the Black Green Aristocrats list. Oh, it sounds like our players are actually ready to go. So, Professor, you ready to watch the magic?
I think everybody here is well familiar with the Aristocrats list. Why don't we just go straight to the game?
Let's head down to the feature match area. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is round 2 here at the Community Super League. We have Maria and Megan from Magic the Amateuring playing Black Green Aristocrats versus Loading Ready Run with Red White Eldrazi Goggles. So let's take a look at the hands, Professor. It looks like LRR is taking a mulligan so far, but the second hand looks quite a bit better, has early interaction. Taking a look at the Black Green Aristocrats hand, that looks like a little bit of a... Yeah.
Collected Company, I'm very familiar with that one already. That's a great card to have in their opening hand. But of course, they've got the Nantuko Husk for sacrificing and pumping up 3 land. I don't know, seems like a good keep.
Yeah, it's definitely a keep, but it's unfortunate because it's a relatively slow hand. You know, this deck plays so many, you know, 1-drops, 2-drops, and value creatures earlier in the game. And so, sure, Catacomb Sifter is that kind of creature, and it does bring an Eldrazi Scion with it, and that's good. But you know, I think against Red White Eldrazi Goggles, you kind of want to get underneath them in some ways, especially game 1. So this is kind of a slow start, you know?
Yeah. And how fast typically would you say that the Eldrazi Goggles deck is comparatively?
I think it's slower than the Ramp deck in that sense. You know, a lot of it depends on the early interaction it has. It doesn't seem like it has too much of it. It has a lot of discard right now, like Magmatic Insight and Tormenting Voice will let it kind of cycle through some of the stuff, maybe get some value out of that Lightning Axe, but, you know, this isn't going to go too fast. That Follow the Titans will be good, presumably, later on in this game if he manages to surge it.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of cheap spells here, so...
How important would you say that goggles are to Red White Eldrazi Goggles? What if they never come up? Is that going to be a big disaster here?
I mean, you can certainly win without them. I think it'd be a problem if the deck couldn't function without, you know, having Pyromancer's Goggles and have it not work. It's just so good if they do have it. So, like, Magmatic Insight and Tormenting Voice, when you have Pyromancer's Goggles out, it's kind of a wombo combo. Because instead of having to, you know, when you get to copy it with a Pyromancer's Goggles, you're not copying the first part of it that says as an additional cost, discard a card. So what you're doing is you're paying 2 mana, discard 1 card, draw 4 cards. So it's just draw 3.
And what about the reverse? What if the goggles come up but no Eldrazi do? Is that going to spell disaster?
They definitely have to get on the board in some way. They have to manage enough. They have to be able to deal Marie and Megan enough damage. So far, it looks like, there's a Matter Reshaper that's sitting on LR's hand that's not coming down right now. But look, this Fiery Impulse is going to take down that Catacomb Sifter. Spell Mastery is online, which is good. See, there's a Chandra. Chandra's a pretty important card here because it'll wipe out most of this board. It depends on how much setup Marie and Megan get to AKA set up. Obviously, then the Tuka Husk will survive some of that Chandra action, but some of the other creatures won't necessarily. Let's see. Blister Pod. So that's kind of what they wanted to play on turn 1.
Right.
The few times that you would ever say that you thought a Blister Pod would top 8 the Pro Tour, but indeed it did.
A lot of people have commented that this deck is so similar to a lot of draft decks to the old event deck that was made with a lot of the components, and it was so unexpected to see it perform so well. A lot of what it has is actually not utilizing too much from Shadows over Innistrad, is it? This is a deck that's been around from the last standard and is now just doing fine.
Yeah, basically, that's completely right. Basically, this is what Rally the Ancestors looked like, except you took out, Rally the Ancestors is like, was just a deck that was splashing double white for Rally the Ancestors, and so that was one of the tough things with that deck as a mana base, was like pretty clunky. If you were playing something like any ways to destroy their lands, like a World Breaker, you could just target their white lands, and sometimes they would just not be able to cast Rally. This basically took away Rally the Ancestors, but now it has a lot of different ways to still kind of get the win. Westvale Abbey is a really, it's a new great card for this deck because it's able to leverage all these little cheap creatures and get Ormondal, awesome threat, finishes the game in like 2 turns, and you still have Zulaport Cutthroat. Obviously, that guy's great. He drains for a lot of damage. And, you have some downgrades like Blister Pod, but it kind of does what you needed in this match. It's 2 creatures. And
there they go for that swing. Look at that.
Yeah. This is Maria and Megan getting out aggressively. And do we know if they're playing together?
They are indeed playing together.
Fun.
They do their streams together. They record the podcast in the same room, so they don't telecommute it in as many of us who are separated across the country are forced to.
All right, Loam Dry getting out there.
Not much going on for Loading Ready Run on that bottom board. What is their goal here? What would they want to happen ideally? What are they looking for?
I mean, they're not in good shape here.
No.
They're just not. They need, if they could play the Thought-Knot Seer. Now that there's a Nantuka Husk on the board, this is a lot more difficult because before they could just kind of like throw the Thought-Knot Seer in front of something and it's not going to be a big problem. But now with Nantuka Husk, like that guy, you can't really block it very well, right? And there's a ton of fodder here. So Loading Ready Run isn't going to lose any life from a Zulaport Cutthroat, but still going to just like lose a Thought-Knot Seer if they ever block the Nantuka Husk. But if they don't block the Husk, then they're just going to take so much damage. So... yeah,
already down to 14. Here we go. They're tapping for
Nahiri. I mean, they get to kill like the Nantuka or the God, I'm forgetting its name.
The tapped creature.
Yeah, one of the tapped creatures.
It's blurry on my screen too.
I'm just legitimately blanking.
No, I it's the name's all blurred out on my screen. But yes, she can get rid of the tapped one.
So she ticked up. If you're Maria and Megan here, though, you don't care about this Nahiri, like, at all.
Think they're going to ignore it and just swing for life or take her out?
Yeah, I think they're going to go face. I mean, they get to come in for 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 damage, and then they're on a 2-turn clock, and then they can't even really ramp out, like, a Chandra, which would be the one board wipe here that could kind of save them. So...
They've got enough mana for collected. It just seems like this game is already done fast.
Yeah. So I think here they're just kind of going through the motions. Oh yeah, they also actually they're just dead on board. If they played yeah. If they play out other creatures here and then attack and then have the Nantuko Husk sack the summoning set creatures, that's just lethal. So
All right. There
So
we go.
here-
That was incredibly
yep, so there's
fast.
Nantuko Husk.
Considering that they had that slow start.
So here is Nantuko Husk is going to sacrifice some of these creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're just going through the motions. They're also safe to do this just because the fellows are tapped out. So there's, they're not going to get blown out by a removal spell or like random lightning axe discarding
Right.
something else and it's 5 damage. Even then, the lightning axe can't catch them because they can just sacrifice so many creatures that it doesn't matter.
Right, and it's +2/+2 for each creature that it sacks, so it's just getting up super powerful, super fast.
Let's see. So that Husk is currently, what, an 8/8, I think? 10.
Ooh.
Eat 2 more of those Scions.
That is game.
They could even go for the sick
Gobble,
rubbins
gobble.
and still
Oh,
play
you've
Collective
got to
Company.
go for the sick rubbins. I think that's mandatory. It's a penalty point if you don't go for the sick rubbins.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. Playing
That
on
is-
her WOTC coverage Maria account also. Just, throwing off that bling there.
She's like, don't mind if I do.
Right.
You went for the sick rubbins in your match, didn't you?
I
Like,
always try for that. I try for
you
that.
had lethal
Sure.
on board and then you still had like 2 or 3 Dromokus commands left. Was
It's
that right?
better to use them. My mother always taught me that you don't want to let things go to waste. And why should we? There are people across this country, across this world, in fact, who are going without those Dromokus commands. They go to bed at night without having gotten to cast the Dromokus command. And I feel like it would be wasteful for me to leave Dromokus commands unspent on my in my hand. So yes, I finished my plate. So what we got in the sideboard here for these?
Yeah, I was trying to see what they were sideboarding in. I think they were bringing... I wasn't quite able to see because it's a little small, but...
I can't read any of these cards, unfortunately, on my monitor. Now, it looks like that squiggly image to the left is some kind of Eldrazi. Do you remember what the Eldrazi did from
Yeah,
the
that
last
is
set?
Eldrazi Obligator. I
Oh,
don't know
right,
that it's
right.
necessarily coming in. It's a threaten effect, so it could potentially steal one of the little creatures. Though the little creatures that they can steal from Maria and Megan, they're so small and so not impactful that bringing those guys in really doesn't do anything. And they're also a 3/1 with haste, so they just get chumped by an Elvish Visionary, and then you just feel bad.
So, right now, Megan and Maria are thinking, we want to steamroll 2-0 these guys. We want to just basically make this a super fast match and laugh all the way to the bank. And here we go.
All right, let's head into game 2. Let's take a look at their opening hands. So looking at Maria and Megan, we have Westvale Abbey. They have all of their colors, Slowport Cutthroat. Oh, their hand looks great.
Yeah.
I think they just snapped that off. And then looking at
Loading ready, run
LRR,
mulligans. Mulligan.
these hands are dicey. They have 2 Magmatic Insights. They can discard some lands and see what they draw. It looks like they keep that in a Lightning Axe. They might keep that on top. It's one of the cards that they can discard too. I don't know. They could potentially... They bottomed it, it seems. They might just want more early interaction or like a couple more creatures in the beginning to maybe stem down the bleeding that... They have... Maria and Megan are going to have a fast clock here.
Oh boy, are they ever.
So they
We
draw
got the
Cryptolith
dark-
Rites.
Yeah.
Cryptolith Rites, unfortunately, in this hand, not looking too impressive. They definitely wanted smaller, cheaper creatures in order to pump out their hand, but drawing another Cutthroat off the top is pretty nice.
Unfortunately, not much help for Loading Ready Run down there with their draws.
No,
They've got, they threw away some land and got nothing else in its place. And they're going to continue that strategy, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they threw away now the Dark Dwellers and they drew 2 Thought-Knot Seers. Oh, this looks like it's going to be a steamroll.
Oh my goodness.
See here on the other hand, they can go Catacomb Sifter. They probably just want to go Catacomb Sifter here and start attacking with the Zulaport Cutthroat into the beatdown plan. They could also potentially here go like Cryptolith Rites into another Zulaport Cutthroat, and then they get 2 of them in play. But they just get more creatures in play if they cast the Catacomb Sifter here. So yeah, so that is what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Held up on
Man,
mana here.
Linvala.
Oh, she is not coming out.
Yeah, she is.
She is never going to see the light of day.
She's probably the next card to get discarded to that Magmatic Insight.
Yeah.
Did they not cast? I think they want to be making their. Oh no, they're still in their main phase. Okay. I was gonna say I was confused.
This is.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Right.
Yeah, no, they're not. So this is tough. I wonder if there's a chance that LLR didn't want to discard their first land because their hand was pretty expensive. I mean, maybe they were looking for a creature earlier to play.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, if they discarded their 3rd land and now they don't have a land, and now they have Chandra, Dark Dwellers, Pyromancer's Goggles, Thought-Knot Seer, and like nothing they can play.
You know, when I looked at their opening hand, it looked like you could get the impression that it was flooded. It looked very mana heavy, not a lot going on, but they threw all that land away, and now they're just stuck up here on 2 mana.
So it looks like they're going to try to pump out most of their hand here. They could have gone with an attack all and then collected company at the end of their turn. Playing Cryptolith Rites here does mean that they still get to Coco. Actually, they could play Catacomb Sifter and then have 3 more mana left over and play an Nantuko Husk. So if they sack one of the Scions. So that could be a pretty good option too. It gets them pretty far ahead on the board, and then there's no board wipe that they're worried about from LRR here on the way back. So,
now, is it possible that LRR's screen has frozen and actually plays have happened that we haven't seen? What is the likelihood that some things have gone on? Oh, we're going to see
they found a land.
Yeah.
Not quite enough.
Right.
It's not, I mean, they just don't even have a play, because next turn they're taking basically infinite damage.
And one thing is very clear. I'm really glad I didn't pick Red-White Eldrazi Goggles when I had the opportunity.
Oh, did you have a chance to draft this first?
Oh, yes, I did. And I thought about it because I generally tend to like things the color red. But I looked at the deck list and I said, let's go for Bant.
As far as
Mono
red
red
decks
Bant.
go, yeah, I don't think this is like really it's a weird deck. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool, but it's not a traditional red deck in that sense.
That's a lot of lovely things in their hand. It's just nothing actually going to get cast.
Yeah, I mean, like, those goggles aren't going to do anything, so...
The goggles, they do nothing!
Exactly.
They do nothing!
Exactly.
Reference.
So here they could go for a big attack. They don't have an Nantuko Husk in play, so they can't go with, like, sack a million things, though. If you're Maria and Megan, you don't necessarily assume that they're sitting on, like, all spells that they can't cast. They could have some like fiery impulses and things like that, so there's no need to just go in on like one creature. They can just kind of attack with everybody and not really have any fear. So
now, what is the proper position for falling on your sword in a situation? Like, do you want to still make sure that you hold the hilt? But that always confused me because if you're already just going to fall on your sword, it doesn't matter if you cut your hand, right? I mean, it's not a problem, but I guess you really want to make sure you are still holding it by the hilt just for appearance's sake. This is a slaughter.
Megan could go for a sick play here, and they could try to make a Ormondal. There's just like nothing that punishes them right here.
Right. Oh.
See, they are actually going for it.
Oh, this is brutal.
Yeah. So if they just like sack infinite times there with a cutthroat, they get to scry a million times. But most importantly, they're gonna get a Normandal.
It's comedy, but it's dark. It's a dark humor we're witnessing from these comedians here. It's a dark humor. Ooh.
Well, how many triggers is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh god, I lose kind of it. 1, 2.
Don't ask me. I majored in poetry. It represents, but I can tell you what it represents. It represents humankind's struggle against that which is beyond us, and yet always something that we reach for. You just say that throughout graduate school, you get an A in every class. It's great.
I think the other thing you could say is that it's just like straight up lethal. They're gonna die right here.
Yeah. Oh, they've been dead for a long time. Just haven't known it.
You gotta give it to these ladies. They are going for the style points here.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so here comes Ormondal, and bada beam, bada boom.
Now, as I'm watching this match, I'm wondering.
Tap tap
myself,
concede. Tap tap concede.
tap, concede,
Yes.
yeah.
That was great.
Very, very good, very good. So, the aristocrats, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely
deck
the
is
deck.
sweet, right?
Oh my
It
goodness.
plays a lot like an Elves deck would, but it also has like the go all in on Ormondal plan, which is really exciting because getting a 9/7 into play with indestructible trample and haste and lifelink is
It's decent.
it doesn't have trample actual. It
Yeah.
does not have trample, but it has everything else. So
That's very humble of it not to have trample.
yeah, yeah. Flample's a good combination. That was fun, Professor. We did get to see some good
Absolutely.
magic.
So who's coming up next? What are we
have-
watching next?
Upcoming is round 3 here at the Community Super League, and we have Kenji Egashira, who's playing Seasons Past Control that was piloted by John Finkel at the Pro Tour, which is a very cool deck. If you have not had a chance to see that deck in action, it's has the ability to loop Seasons Past and just basically like buy back everything that they play. So that is super cool. And versus Paul Cheon, and so these are two streamer extraordinaires, aka some people call them family members, so they're going to keep the win within the family. Paul's going to be piloting green-white tokens in the round 3 of the Community Super League. That was the deck that was the champion deck at the Pro Tour, so we're going to see some good magic here. I'm not sure who would
Absolutely.
favors. Is there anybody that you think it's going to favor, Professor?
I am definitely excited to see the Seasons Past in action again here. That's a deck that I am a big fan of, and I'm also looking forward to your match after that against Aaron Forsyth. I'm absolutely rooting for you, and I have a humble request when you inevitably win, which we all know you're going to win.
I'm
that
pretty sure I'm
match.
going to get smashed, but what's the
No,
request?
you're going to smash, and when you win, when you 2-0 him, you've got to say, that's for Eldrazi Winter. You've got to say that.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
This is what I can promise. If that happens, I will say that. If it doesn't
Wow.
happen,
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
it's not. I don't think it's gonna happen. I actually think
Murder,
that
ladies
matchup
and
is pretty
gentlemen.
bad.
Yep.
But I'm
she's
gonna
committed.
try.
She's committed.
I will definitely try.
All
I'm definitely
right.
gonna try. We'll see how it goes. But we will be back with more magic right after these messages. Stay tuned, everybody.